All right, so it's 8:30 in the morning and I'm here in my office to record a course on Power Query. Now in this course, I'm going to help you to get started with Power Query, load the data into it, clean the data, reshape the data, and then load it back to your workbook for further analysis. So make sure to grab your laptop, open Excel, and let's get started. All right, so here I will not show you a lot of practical things to tell you how powerful Power Query is and what are the possibilities of Power Query, but I will show you a few practical examples here to extract data from different sources and then reshape that data and then further load the data into the workbook so that you can use it in the way you want. So what I'll do, I'll go to the data tab, and here in the get and transform data, this is a group, specific group where you have all the options of Power Query. So if you're using any Excel version below 2030, this might not be available. In 2010, you can install Power Query, but it's not there by default. You need to install the Power Query add-in, but moving above 2013 and all the versions that are after that, Power Query is there. So when you go to the data tab and you have all these options here, and now I'm going to show you how you can get data into the Excel using Power Query. So let's say if I have a file that is saved on the internet, on a web page or on simple URL, how you can get that data from that file into your Excel file. And I want to get data from this particular URL. So this is a CSV file that is saved on this URL. So what I'll do, I'll go to the data tab, and then from get data, I'll go to from other sources and then from web. You can also click on from web here because this option is already there. So you don't need to go inside. What I'll do, I'll click on here, and from web, it'll take a few seconds to show you a pop-up here. And now in the URL input bar, I'll paste the link and I'll click OK. So it will take a few seconds to just connect your Power Query to that particular URL. And here I have an initial view of the data that I have on that URL into this in the CSV file. So here I can see, this is the data with a lot of columns, name, company name, address, and all sort of things. So now I have two options here. The one is to load this data into the Excel, and the second is to open the Power Query editor. So when you click on transform data, it will load this data into the Power Query editor, and then you can do all the changes, reshaping, cleaning data, all sort of things. If you click on the load, it will simply load this data into your current worksheet. So let's say if I click on transform data, again, it will take a few seconds to load the data. And here you have your Power Query editor. And now I have all the columns here, all the details, the entire data. Now this Power Query editor looks like a normal Excel file where we have ribbon, options, all sort of things. But the way you use features or options in Power Query is completely different from the way you use it in Excel. So you have a lot of things to do. You can change, let's suppose you want to delete a column, you want to add a new column, you want to change the case of the text, you want to convert your text from uppercase to lowercase, and all sort of things. So right now what I'll do, I'll simply close this and load data back to my workbook. And here I have this data into my worksheet. So it has added a new worksheet basically instead of putting it into the current worksheet. Right, so let's move to a different example here. I'm gonna get data. I'm gonna extract data from a PDF file. So I have a PDF file on my desktop and I want to get data from this file. So what I'll do, I'll go to my Excel and from the data tab, I'm going to go get data from file and then from PDF. So I'll select the PDF and click on import. So what happens is when you load a PDF file as a data source in the Power Query, it shows you data in two different ways. The one is the tables that you have in the PDF file, and the second is by showing you pages that you have in your PDF file. So I'm gonna go with the pages because I have tables. I don't have any other data. So I'm gonna select all the 4 pages and then click on transform data. And now here I have all the 4 pages, data from all the 4 pages into my Power Query editor. Now what happens is when you have data as 4 pages, you need to combine this data first so that you can load this data back to your worksheet. So for this, I'm going to go to the append queries and then click on append queries as new. And now I'm going to click on 3 or more tables because I have 4 pages and then tables. And I'm going to add these in a sequence, page 1, 2, 3, 4, and then click OK. So here I have a new query where I have all the data from all the pages. And now I'm going to click on close and load to. Instead of close and load, I'm going to click on close and load to. And instead of getting data straight to the worksheet, I'll click on only create connection. So when you do that, it create a connection. It adds data at the back end, but it will not add data straight into the worksheet. Now, because I don't want data from these pages, page 1, page 2, page 3, but I want data from the combined query. So now what I'll do, I'll right click on it and then I'll click on load to table. And here I have data, the entire data from the PDF into my worksheet. All right, so let's take a different example. Here I have 4 different files with customer data, and the structure of the data in these files is same. From file 1 to file 4, the structure is same. So now I want to combine this data into one single workbook using Power Query. So what I'll do, I'll go to the data tab and get data from file and then from folder. And now I'm going to select the folder where I have these files and click OK. So here's the list of the files. And instead of clicking on transform data, I'm going to click on combine and transform data. And here I have the preview of the data from the files. It shows me preview from the first file, but from this drop down, you can select the file and you can have the preview from any of these files, the data that you have. Let's say if you want to see data from file 2, you can see 11 to 20. For file 4, I have 31 to 40. And mind you, in all of these files, the sheet name where we have data is same, sheet 1. And now I'm going to click on the sheet and I'm going to click OK to get this data into the Power Query. So here I have the data from all the files. You can see here we have an extra column that
shows me the name of the workbooks. So I don't need this column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the header and then click remove. So my data is ready and I will load this data back to the workbook. And yes, I have data from customer ID 1 to 40. Now let's start with loading data from the same workbook into the Power Query editor. And now here I have a small set of data where I have first name, last name, and email IDs. Now I need to go to the data tab, and from the get and transform data, I need to click on from table and range button. So when I click on it, it asks me to convert this data into a table and then load this data into the Power Query. So mind you, whenever you want to load data into the Power Query, you need to convert that data into an Excel table. You can convert it first and then you load into the Power Query, or when you click on this button from table or range and the data is not a Excel table, it will ask you to convert it first and then load it to the Power Query editor. So when I click on it, it asks me, so I'll click on my table has headers and then click OK. And instantly it will load it to the Power Query editor. Now, this is the Power Query editor. So you have seen it earlier when we were loading data from different sources, and all the options to clean the data and reshape the data is here in this ribbon. So you have 4 different tabs and all the options are listed here. So let's start with, cleaning the data or trying to reshape the data. As I said, there are a lot of options that you have in Power Query, but let's start with some basic one. Now here I have a column with the first name, last name, and email ID. So the first thing I need here is to change the case of these names. So I want to convert this column and this column also into an uppercase letters. For this, I'm going to select the column. So as I said, whenever you want to do something in Power Query, you need to do it on the entire column or even on the multiple columns entirely. So I'll select the column first name, and then I'm going to go to transform, and here in the transform there is a group called text column. And now in the text column I'm going to click on format, and here I have few options that are pretty much useful for me. So I'll go with uppercase, and it instantly convert the entire column into an uppercase letters. And now on the very right side of your screen, you can see I have this small pane here that says applied steps. And now here is one thing that you need to understand. Whenever you do anything in Power Query, it lists that activities into a applied steps pane. So whenever you do anything, so let's say if I change the case of this column, it will create a new step here. And let's say if I delete this step, it will move my data back to its original shape. So if I go back to format and then uppercase, it again adds a new step here. That means I have changed something in my data, and that step is listed here in the applied steps pane. And now if I select the second column, the last name column, and then again go to the format and then uppercase, it convert this column into uppercase letters, but the step is here is same. So basically what I've done, I've changed the first name column and then the last name column, but the change was almost same. There was no difference between the first column and the last name column. So that is why I have only one step. So even if I change the email IDs into uppercase letters, it will not add an additional step here. So for all the 3 things that I have done, for first name, last name, and email, I have only one step because the change was same. And now if I delete this step, it will convert all the 3 columns back to their original shape. So instead of changing the case for one column at a time. I'm going to select all the 3 columns, and then I'm going to format and uppercase. And here I have the step for changing the case. And now if I want to convert this data, or first name and last name, into a letters where the first alphabet is capital and rest is all in the small. So I'll select both of the columns and go to format, and then I'll use capitalize each word. And here I have one more step for the change that I have done in the data. And in the same way, if I want to convert these 2 columns into lowercase, I'll go to format and then lowercase. And all the names now are in lowercase. And I have applied step here. So the first was to convert into uppercase, and the second was into capitalize each word, and the third one for lowercase both of the columns. Now let's say if I want to split this column based on the at that I have in between the email IDs. So what I'll do, I'll duplicate this column first. So I'll right click and then click on duplicate column. And now I just want values, anything that is after the at symbol. So for this, I'm going to select the column, and then I'm going to split column and by delimiter. So Power Query is smart enough to actually identify which is the actual delimiter that I'm going to use. Even though you can select anything from the list, but I'm going to go with the custom one, that is at. And now when I click OK, so it splits the column into 2 columns where I have the name, the part of the email ID before the at symbol, and then the second column where I have part of the email ID after the at symbol. So I just want this column. I don't want this column. So I'm going to right click on it and then remove. And you can see every time I do anything, I make any change, the step is there. So this is also very helpful when you want to know that what are the changes that you have done in the data, and you can want to undo anything, or even you can delete any step within the list. So let's say if you want to, to remove these 3 steps like lowercase, capital, or uppercase, you can simply. So now you can see here that when I delete the previous steps, it doesn't impact the steps that I have ahead in the list. So in this way, you have control over if you want to delete some steps between the list, or you just want to undo something. All right, so now I want to combine these 2 columns. So instead of having first name and last name in 2 different columns, I want to have a full name in a single column. So for this, I'm going to add a new column here, and then I'm going to write a simple formula. So I'll go to add column and then click on custom column. And from custom column, I will enter the name first. And here I'm going to use a simple concatenation formula. So I'll enter first name here, and then an ampersand and a space, and then again an ampersand, and then the last name. So first name, space, and last name. And when I click OK, it gives me a column with the full name. And now let me reorder it. Let me move it. And now, because I already have full name here, so I don't need first and last name. So I will select and right click and then remove columns. So let me show you an example here. Let me show you a different example. Let's say I want to filter data in Power Query. So here I have list of email IDs, but I also have a list of websites of email IDs, like where the email IDs are actually belongs to. So from this list, I just want to filter email IDs which are from Gmail, Hotmail, or Yahoo.com. So what I'll do, I'll go back to the Power Query editor, and from the this second column, I will unselect all, and then from the search bar, I'm gonna select Gmail and then Yahoo and then Hotmail. And now when I come back, you can see all the websites are unselected, but Gmail, Hotmail, and the Yahoo is selected. So now I'm gonna click OK. Now here I have data for Gmail, Hotmail, and Yahoo.com. And now I'm gonna go back to the worksheet and load this data. So again, it will take a few seconds to load the data. So out of 50,000 rows, now I have only 21,396. And all these entries are from Yahoo, Hotmail, and Gmail. Now let's say in the main data where I have all the email IDs, so this is how you can also clean your data using a filter if you don't want a specific rows, or you want some specific rows, and you can filter. So you can filter it out and load data back to your workbook. So whenever you add new data into the source data, Power Query will filter it out and then give you the new data into your worksheet. So you don't need to change the filter again and again. It will automatically refresh the data, make all the changes, and then give you the new fresh data. All right, so let's try a different example here. Let's try to group data based on a column. So here we have data for Gmail, Hotmail, and Yahoo. And now I want to know the count of email IDs that each site has. So I want to know how many email IDs are there for Gmail, and how many are there for Yahoo, and how many are there for Hotmail. So what I'll do, I'll go back to the Power Query editor, and for this, I'm going to right click on the query and then edit. And now I'll use the group by option. So for this, in the home tab, I'm going to click on group by, and in the group by, I'll select the column that I want to use, and that's the email copy to, and I need the count. You can also specify the kind of calculation that you want Power Query to perform. So if you just want to count the rows, you can use count rows. And if you want to count distinct rows, that means unique rows, so you can use this calculation from here. And now I'm going to click OK. And here I have the count that says count for Gmail, count for Hotmail, and count for Yahoo. And when I load this data back to my worksheet, it completely changed the table that I had earlier. So now I just have 3 rows where I have count for Gmail, Hotmail, and Yahoo. That's it. Now, if I make a change in my data, let's say if I add a new email ID. So this is Gmail. Let me refresh the data to see that if this entry reflects in our final data. So yes, we have 7145. So do you remember at the starting of this video, we have learned how to combine data from multiple workbooks into one single workbook. And now I have same data, but in 4 different worksheets and in a single workbook. And now I want to combine this data into a single table in the same workbook. So I'll show you a different method, which is quite easy, but it will take a few minutes of you. So make sure to watch this part completely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to data tab and click on table and range. And mind you, this data has already Excel table. And mind you, I have already applied Excel table on all the 4 tables here. So I'm going to go to data tab and click on from table and range. And now just by loading it into the Power Query editor, I will go to the queries tab and right click and rename. So I will name it data 1 and then instead of simply clicking on close and load, I will click on the drop down and choose close and load to. So here it gives me a dialog box that asks me that how I want to import this data back to my workbook. So instead of simply importing it, I will only create a connection. And now I'm going to click OK. So right now I don't have data here in the worksheet, but I have a connection through the Power Query. And now again, I'm going to go to load the second table into the Power Query editor. And now I'm going to rename it data 2 and close and load to create a connection. And same thing for the third table. Data 3, close and load to OK. And here I have the connection. And the same thing for the fourth table as well. Rename data 4. And now close and load to only create connection. Now to get the entire data from 4 worksheets, the 4 tables into a single table, I need to use the append query option. So for this, I'm going to select the data 1 from here and then right click and append. Or you can also go to the data tab, click on the get data, and from combine queries, you can select append. Now here, because I have more than 2 tables, I would select 3 or more tables option. And here I have a list of all the tables for which I have created connection just a few minutes back. So now I will add these tables into the tables to append in a sequence. So data 1. Oh, so here I have made a mistake. So I used date instead of data. So let me go back and rename it. Data 1. All right, so let's append it back. Here. 3 or more tables. Data 1. I already have data 1. Now data 2, data 3, data 4. And now I'm going to click OK. And yes, I have all the data from 4 tables into one single table. Yes. And now before doing anything else, let me load this data back to my workbook. Let me move it. Let me rename this worksheet main data. Or would say total. All right. So let me show you how this data table is real time. Let's say if I enter a new entry here. Okay. Now let me come back to the main sheet and refresh this table. So here we have the new entry from the table 4. And this is how you can combine data from multiple tables from a single workbook into one single table. Now let's talk about something advanced. In Power Query, just like Microsoft Excel, you have functions that you can use to manipulate and change data. So let me go back to my Power Query editor. And for this, I'm going to right click on the query and then click on edit. And now from this data, I want to add a few columns using functions. And for this, I'm going to go to add column and then click on custom column. So whenever you want to use a function in Power Query, you need to add a custom column for this. So I'll add a custom column. And now here I want to count the number of characters that I have in the name, in customer's name. So for this, there's a specific function that is text dot length. Now you can see whenever you type alphabet in this custom column formula, it shows you a list of functions that are available in Power Query. So it's just like Microsoft Excel. So the point is you need to know that which function that you require to use. So here the point is you need to know the function that you require to use to get the result. So now I'm gonna specify the customer name and close this function. And the moment I click OK, you can see it will add a new column here with the count of characters for the customer name. And yes, here we have the count of customer names characters. And now let me add one more column here. So here in this column, we have the join date. And now from this column, I want to extract year of joining and month of joining. So I'll add two different columns. One is for months and one is for years. So first of all, let's move with the year. And for this, there is a function called date dot year. And I'm going to specify the join date column. So you can double click on the column's name and it will add it to the function automatically. And now I'm going to close the function and click OK. And here I have the year of joining in a separate column. And in the same way, I will add one more column to have months. Month, and again the function name is date dot month. Again, join date, close the function, and OK. And here I have the month. And now the month is in numbers, but I want to have name of the month instead of the number, because it's easy to read the name of the month instead of number. So I'm going to change the function here. So I will click on the add custom to edit the function here. And let me delete it first. And then I'm going to use the function date dot month name. And I'm going to specify the join date column, close the function, and then click OK. So here I have name of the month instead of number. Now let's talk about one of the most amazing things that we have in Power Query, and that's using if statement. Now here in this column, in the year column, I have years 2022, 23, 24, and 25. And 25 is the year which is future year. So right now we are in 2024. So what I want here, I want to check what are the entries, what are the customer names where we have 2025. This might be a data entry error or something else. So we just want to check where we have 2025. So I'll create a condition where we have the year above 2024, because right now we are in 2024. That's the present year. And for this, I'm going to add a conditional statement. So whenever you want to use if statement, you can use a conditional column option instead of custom column. So when I click on custom column, so instead of showing me a normal dialog box to write a function, so instead of showing me a normal custom function dialog box, it shows me a conditional dialog box where I can create a condition based on some values. And now, first of all, I'm gonna enter the name of the column, and then I'm gonna select the column where I want to test the condition, and that's year. And I want to check for the entries where the year is above 2024, greater than 2024. And the value I want here is or I would say wrong year. And now let's create one more condition here in the year. If less than or equal to 2024, that means 2024, 23, 22. So give me correct year. And now let me read this condition. For the year column, if the value is greater than 2024, that means it's a wrong year. It's an error or something else. But if the year is less than or equal to 2024, that means 24, 23, 22, that means the entry is correct. And now I'm going to click OK. So you can add as many as columns, using conditions, and you can also use multiple conditions to test from one single column or multiple columns. It's just up to you how you want to add conditions in your data.